Good morning. Welcome to church this morning. We're going to carry on in our series, 1 John, Love and Light. We're going to release the Baby's Bible class. If you haven't gone, Baby's Bible class, that's for kids 6 months and older, so you can go into that room in the side there. If you didn't know and you have a newborn baby, we also have a cry room that's also in the side there to the right, where we have a TV screen that's showing the sermon as well. So you won't miss out, and you can look after your child and change their smelly diaper. All right, I want to start off in prayer. I feel like this morning I've noticed that we've been singing a lot about God being our King, and we've been singing about submitting to God. And so I would love to just take a pause moment, a moment to reflect, because what that means to make God our King and enthrone Him as King above us, that means in this moment, in this building, like Tabisa said, we come and we might have arrived with a different attitude, he said, and maybe you came for a different reason. Maybe you came for religious reasons. You have to come to church. It's Sunday morning. That's just what you got to do. But maybe God wants to do something different in your heart. So we want to enthrone Him in our hearts and make Him King. And our Father, He's our Father, and our Father is a King. How incredible is that? That is a powerful statement. Our Father is a King. And so I just want to pray and ask that each one of us in our hearts make Him King of this morning. Make Him King of the message. Make Him King of this church, that we can hear what it is He has to say to us and respond to it appropriately. So, Lord, we bow our hearts, we bow our heads, we open up our hands in praise to You. We want to recognize You in this place, and we want to ask You to affect our hearts, to affect who we are, to influence us this morning. We want to enthrone You in our praises. We want to enthrone You in our worship time. We want to enthrone You in the message this morning. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so I've titled the message this morning, Building Eternal Love. And many, many years ago, I made the terrible, terrible mistake of getting emotionally invested in soccer. And even worse than that, I ended up choosing Man United as my soccer team many, many years ago. And I know as soon as I say that, a lot of you will kind of turn off and be like, oh my gosh, I don't care about soccer. And I envy you for that. I really do, but that is not me, unfortunately. And later on today, I get the great privilege of watching my team get absolutely slaughtered by probably the strongest team in the league right now, which is Liverpool. And I hope you understand how difficult that was for me to say. Okay? And so I want to tell you a story, just to even the balance. Many years ago, Liverpool were top of the log. They were number 1 on the Premier League, 5 points ahead of second place with 3 games to go. And so everyone just assumed they had won the league. Everyone assumed they had won the league, basically calling them champions already. No one thought that this would go anywhere else. But indeed, they managed to let their lead slip, and they ended up losing the league that year. I literally just told you that to make me feel better about what I said earlier. But there is another story where a couple of years ago, Liverpool were again top of the league, and this time they had the greatest points difference between first place and second place. 23 points separated first place Liverpool and second place, I think it was Chelsea at the time. It was Man City at the time. And so with 7 games to go, they were already champions. They were given the trophy. They were told, you guys are called champions elect, which means no one can mathematically catch you up. And so you guys are basically champions. But there were still 7 games to go. So for another 7 games, they had to train. For another 7 games, they had to defend. For another 7 games, people could still score against them. Other teams could still go on the field and make fools of them, right? But they were champions. They had the trophy. And there is a parallel here with our kingdom Christian experience. We are sons and daughters of a king who is the king of a victorious kingdom. And when Jesus came, he instituted what is called in the theology world inaugurated eschatology, which is a super fancy multi-syllabic way of saying the future reality of us being completely victorious and living in God's wonderful kingdom can break through into the present. It can break through into our present reality. And we get little tastes of that. We get little tastes of our future reality of being with God in a completely obstacle-free way. And living in today, we get little moments of that joyous kingdom. So with that in mind, we're going to read from 1 John chapter 2. So if you have your Bibles, it's right at the end. You get the books of Peter, and then John, and then Jude and Revelation. So we're going to be reading this morning 1 John chapter 2, verse 7 to 14. It says, "Dear friends, I am not writing you a new command, but an old one, which you have had since the beginning. This old command is the message you have heard. Yet I am writing you a new command. Its truth is seen in him and in you, because the darkness is passing and the true light is already shining. Anyone who claims to be in the light but hates a brother or sister is still in the darkness. Anyone who loves their brother and sister lives in the light, and there is nothing in them to make them stumble. But anyone who hates a brother or sister is in the darkness and walks around in the darkness. They do not know where they are going, because the darkness has blinded them. I am writing to you, dear children, because your sins have been forgiven on account of his name. I am writing to you, fathers, because you know him who is from the beginning. I am writing to you, young men, because you have overcome the evil one. I write to you, dear children, because you know the Father. I write to you, fathers, because you know him who is from the beginning. I write to you, young men, because you are strong, and the word of God lives in you, and you have overcome the evil one." And so we have here a picture of love, which, like I said, we want to build eternal love. But we were born into this world, and born into this world is being born with a nature of sin. And I want to talk this morning to all of us who have that nature, which is to look after ourselves. We have this tendency to look after ourselves, right? We have a tendency to want to look after ourselves first, to care for ourselves the most, to nurture ourselves, to build up ourselves, to want the best for only ourselves. And that's a product of this fallen world that we're born into. And so this morning, as we look at this subject of love, I want to remind ourselves that there is this future kingdom of pure love that's trying to break through into the present. God's eternal kingdom is built on love for others. Our eternity that we're looking forward to is built on the perfection of love. It's not built on love for self. It's built on love for others. What are the great 2 commandments? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor. It's not love yourself. And so the tendency that we have to care only about us is something that needs to be overcome for us to build as sons and daughters of the Father. And so I have 3 points this morning that I want to take out of the text that point towards the difficulty we're facing in trying to live a kingdom life now. The first one is contemporary life is built on self. Today's world, everything encourages us to be building our life on self. It says in 1 John 2, verse 9 to 11, it says, anyone who claims to be in the light but hates the brother or sister is still in the darkness. Anyone who loves their brother and sister lives in the light, and there is nothing in them to make them stumble. But anyone who hates a brother or sister is in the darkness. We're teaching some wrong theology. And so John was giving them ways to spot who is a real Christian and who is not a real Christian. And that's why he says anyone who claims to be in the light, you can spot if they're a real Christian by the love they have for their brothers. But he's also writing this to the congregation themselves, because they have these outsiders that are coming in and trying to deceive them. And so John is saying, careful that even though you have to be aware of those that are teaching you wrong things, be careful that you don't end up hating them. Careful that you don't end up rejecting them. Careful that you don't end up pushing them away. There are people in your congregation that you need to love. So be careful that those that you need to love, that are difficult to love, you don't end up hating and then becoming the thing that you're not supposed to be. You see, he addresses them as dear friends. And when he addresses people as dear friends, we know that he's talking to those that he's discipling. We naturally are critical thinkers. And so as critical thinkers, we question the world that our parents present to us. Right? And that's why I love working in teens. That's why I love working in teen ministry. Because what happens with teenagers is they love to rebel against their parents because they're questioning the world their parents has presented them. Up until their adolescence, they just accept blindly anything you tell them. Me and my wife, when we had our first child, we thought it would be hilarious to just pick one thing and teach our kid wrong. Just one thing, and just teach them something completely messed up that's not right, that doesn't have anything to do with everyday life, so no one would ever know until one day in the future, like, they would be, I don't know, maybe we tell them that a platypus is actually called Chewbacca. And then one day in the future they come across a platypus and they say to their friends, hey, look, there's a Chewbacca. And their friends are like, no, that's a platypus. And they'll be like, no, it's a Chewbacca. And then their friend will be like, are you okay? And just totally question them. We thought it would be so funny. And then we'd know that they'd start questioning the world we're presenting them. We thought that would be a great indicator. We just couldn't agree on what would be funny enough to teach them. So Melissa, Ruben, Olivia, if you're watching this in the future, we didn't do this. Everything we taught you is because we believe it to be true too. But there is a time where teenagers will come and question the world you present to them. You did it to your parents. I did it to my parents. Sorry, guys. And my kids will do it to me. We question their reality because we have to see if it's true. And so what I get to do as someone working in teen ministry is I get to say to the teenagers, guys, your parents weren't lying. Jesus does love you. God does want to be your father. I get to come alongside the parents and say, no, they're not crazy. It isn't one of those things that they thought would be funny just to teach you wrong for the sake of it. And we get to come alongside and disciple to reinforce the message that the parents teach them, which is a vital thing in the life of a teenager. But what's happened with our critical nature and questioning the world is as time has gone by, we have walked a journey closer and closer and closer towards individualism. And as we question the world presented to us by our parents, we question the morals they give us, we question the worldviews they give us, we question everything they give us, and that has changed the way we live life to make it more about ourselves. And we as Protestant Christians, I don't know if you know this, but you're Protestants in general. I would believe that everyone here is a Protestant, and us as Protestants need to recognize the role that we played, the vital role we played in kind of kicking off this individualistic society. It's recognized in anthropology, it's recognized by non-religious researchers that the Protestant Revolution, when Martin Luther fought against the Catholic Church at the time, saying, we need to put the Bible in the hands of every Christian. We need people to read the Bible for themselves. We need people to be able to recognize and get to know Jesus for themselves, individually. That started a journey towards creating a life based on ourselves. Now, what Martin Luther did was fantastic. Really, really, really good. We do each need an individual relationship with God. We all do need to get to know God for ourselves. We all do need to read the Bible for ourselves. Absolutely. But as time is going by, we have to be careful that we're not taking that too far. We've got to be careful that we're not starting to create a world in where it's only about myself. And that can be the tendency. And John, when he saw that in his congregation, he jumped on that. And he said, no, I don't allow that in my congregation. You cannot live just for yourself. You have to live to love others. You have to live in community. You have to live with other people. And it's difficult today because it's trendy and popular to say people suck, right? To say Christianity is great, but Christians are terrible, like Milan was teaching last week. Ubuntu used to be that's individualism. Ubuntu used to be a widely accepted value all across the world in many different cultures, this idea of living together. But as this individualistic society starts to become more popular across the world, it's becoming less prominent in even like all corners of the globe. Where we used to live to be a part of community, we're now living to be a part of just self. And I've said this before, but it is possible to now live a life today where you don't even ever have to ever interact with anyone else. And there are people that do this. They live like in their basements and order their groceries, and they don't even see the guy that delivers it. And it's possible to live that way. And in a way, it's trendy. But that's not how we were created. John writes to his congregation to remind them of their corporal duty. And just this week, I was talking to one of the teens, and she was telling me this crazy story. She told me that her family is struggling right now financially because her dad has just given away so much money this month. And so they're struggling financially because her dad literally just gave away so much cash. And he didn't consult his wife, and so he didn't do it in a very good way, and now she's pretty upset about it, the wife. But the daughter, when she was telling me the story, she was telling me with so much pride in her eyes. She was so proud of her dad that he saw someone in need, and he just gave. And she explained that he struggled a lot growing up, and he's created a great life for himself. They don't struggle financially ever. They're actually quite well off. But he gave away so much this month that now they're suffering. Because he sees himself and other people that are struggling, and he wants to empower them to get to where he is as well. And I was just so impacted by the pride that she had in her eyes. I said to her, how fantastic is that though? I think if the whole world were to live like your dad, there wouldn't be a need to be found. Right? If the whole world were to be able to give away like your dad does, give away even in a way that affects them, there wouldn't be a need in the world. I say that, and then I realize my own selfishness, because this week my kids have been sick, so sick, and my one kid started coughing and coughing and coughing, and my first thought when I woke up in the middle of the night and hearing this coughing, my first thought was, just stop coughing so I can sleep. Daddy's tired, stop coughing, put it away, and let me sleep. And I just looked at myself thinking, man, there's this dad, and then her dad who is able to give away to people that doesn't even know. And I can't even give my child the right to be sick. But I struggle against this nature as well. I struggle against this desire almost to look after myself and to want to look after others. But there is a future reality. There is a future reality coming, in which we will all live in perfect harmony with each other. There's a future reality coming where we won't have a single desire. We won't have a single need. Everything we want, everything we need will be fulfilled. in this complete kingdom that we have to look forward to. And we can bring that future reality into our present day. We will find all we want when we give all we are to Jesus. And we can bring that future reality into this kingdom present day by being sons and daughters of the kingdom. All right, the second point. Contemporary morals are built on trends. So 1 John 2 verse 7, John says, "Dear friends, I am not writing you a new command, but an old one which you have had since the beginning. This old command is the message you have heard." Now, John likes to play with some words, but what is he really saying here? Why does he have to say, "I'm not writing you a new command, but an old one"? Remember the Gnostics? Those pesky little guys that are struggling with John's congregation here. They love to stand up and say, "I have a new teaching. Come listen to me because I have a new teaching." Don't listen to John's teachings. That's so old, man. That's so last year. Remember this letter was written in the 80s. No, not the 1980s, like the 080s. 80s AD. How do you say? You know what I'm saying, right? So it was written in the 80s, so there was already like 50 years of church, and so the Gnostics were like, "Don't listen to that old teaching, that's already passed. There's now a new teaching. Come listen to us because we got like the latest, greatest stuff." New is always better. Who saw that episode of How I Met Your Mother? Where Barney's like, "New is always better" with his friend, and then they had this argument about, really, the new Star Wars is better than the old Star Wars? Or new wine is better than old wine? And he basically had to admit that he was talking rubbish. But we do have that tendency, right? We want new. Who's seen the new iPhone? Is it really better than the old iPhones? But we have this thing in us, like, I want new. I'm attracted to new just because it's new. That's the only reason. And that was still a part of the congregation of John back then even. They wanted new. And so John then writes this letter and he's like, "Guys, I'm not doing that. I'm not writing you a new command. I'm giving you an old command. This old command you've had since the beginning. Since you found Jesus, you've had this command." He says actually in the next verse that it is a new command because it was what Jesus said in John 13:34, which, guess what, John also wrote this. So it's the same guy. He's like, "Remember this gospel I gave you, the book of John? I said there in the 13th chapter, in the 34th verse, remember? A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another," Jesus said. The new command was to love, but it was an old command for them because they'd had this gospel from the beginning. But love isn't always something that can be thought of as being, okay, done and old. What is right and wrong is often guided by trends. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it is true. A common example is we used to value a society as stay-at-home mom. And now we don't really. It used to be a great value in society. We'd say if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's fantastic. But now we think that that it's more valuable for a mom to be a working mother as well, to have the same opportunity. And that's a good thing. But it's proof that morals do change. We used to value very large families. It used to be, if you had a bigger family, you would have more respect and stuff in society. That's not true today. Morals do change, right? And again, I'm not saying that change is bad necessarily, but we have to recognize that morals do change as time goes on. And not all moral trends have love as their target. That's what I want to say. We have to be careful to base everything on this old new command, which is love. It doesn't matter what, it all has to be based on love. And there are some trends today that I wanted to get into, but I don't want to open that can of worms. But there are some trends today which have a lot of hate as a consequence of them. They come out with like these great things that they want to defend, and yet they just end up breeding hate. And we have to be careful to base all our moral guidance on this new command. I was teaching Bible this week with the grade 11s here. And I asked the Bible class, so what is your guys' biggest issue with the Bible? What are some of the issues you guys have with the Bible? And one of the girls put up her hand and she said, the Bible's really old. It's really old. And because it's so old, it's so outdated, it doesn't speak to my today. It's not relevant for me for today. Which is a common thing for a teenager to say, especially a teen who hasn't read the Bible. It's a common thing for them to say that the Bible's irrelevant for my today. It's a great way for them to get out of reading the Bible. And I understand what they're saying, and I would agree if we had perfected love. If we had already perfected love, guess what? We wouldn't need the Bible. We can move on to something else. But no generation in history has ever perfected love. And so we need the Bible. It is new for us every day because we're still getting there. Right? And there is a future reality coming. There is a future reality that we are going to be a part of with our Father God, our King, in which we will be perfect. All our morals will be based on perfect. Matthew 5 verse 48 says, be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. How's that for an impossible command? But Jesus says, be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. And just before he says that, he says, you need to love those that are difficult to love. If you only love those that are easy to love and natural to love, what difference is there between you and an unbeliever? That is natural if you love those that are naturally easy to love. The only reason you need a supernatural spirit living in you is if you are to love someone that isn't natural for you to love. If you're going to live in a way that is easy to live, guess what? You don't need Jesus. You don't need God. But we're called to a higher standard, which means we do. We need God. We've been called to live perfect. And so that future truth of us being daughters and sons of a perfect king and a perfect kingdom, living in perfection, where we all look after each other perfectly, can break through into today's reality. It can, because we are sons and daughters of the King today. And my last point says, contemporary love is built on feelings. In verse 8, he said, I am writing you a new command. Its truth is seen in him and in you because the darkness is passing and the true light is already shining. See, the darkness and the light are already shining. The darkness of today's world has this kingdom of light that's trying to break through. Right? But John says, I am writing you a new command. We read in John 13:34 that it's a command that I give you to love one another. In verse 35, he says, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples. The way people will know you are my disciples is by your obedience to this command. Last week, Malign read verse 5 that said, if anyone obeys his word, love for God is truly made complete in them. This wouldn't be sincere of John or Jesus if they were giving us a command we could not follow. Right? If we could not complete the command, that's not very sincere of them to say, I'm commanding you to love. But our world today tells us that love is a feeling. It's not something you can just do. And I wonder about that. Like when I see my kids fighting and arguing over some stupid thing that they want to play with. I wish I could just say, hey, love each other. And then it'll be sorted out. Wouldn't that be great? But they're based on feelings. They go according to what they feel. And so we believe that love is a feeling. All the movies we watch, all the advice we're often given, love is a feeling. If I don't feel like I love this woman anymore, I'm not going to stay with her. If I don't feel like we're getting along, I'm not going to hang out with this person. If I don't feel love for these people in church, then I don't have to hang out with them. Even scientists today, this is fantastic, even scientists today are discovering, I love how science always seems to catch up to the Bible. this old, outdated Bible. But even science today is discovering that love is not a feeling. What they are trying to reshape it as is a drive. Like we have a drive for food when we're hungry, and we have a drive for air when we don't have it, or we have a drive for like sleep if we're tired. This week, I told you my kids have been sick, and so our nights have been quite interrupted. And drive isn't always led by feelings, right? Drive is something stronger. And because we haven't been sleeping so much, I was exhausted on Tuesday, absolutely exhausted. But on a Tuesday night, I play soccer, and I love it, and I wanted to play soccer, but I was so exhausted, like absolutely pup. And so against my desires, I sent a message to my soccer team saying, you guys enjoy the game, I can't make it. I'm going to bed. And so I went to bed at 8 o'clock, that's right, 8 o'clock. It's not what I wanted to do, but the drive was strong. But I tell you what, the feelings caught up to the drive. As soon as my head hit that pillow, oh boy, there was nothing I wanted to do more than sleep. The feelings definitely caught up. But love is a drive, and if it is, just like any other drive, there is a goal. If I'm hungry, if my drive is hunger, the goal is food. If love is a drive, the goal is the person. How's that? If love is a drive, and you're commanded to love, that person is your goal. We need to love. And there is a future reality coming where we will love perfectly. Just as we are loved perfectly, just as Jesus loves us perfectly, we will love perfectly. And again, that future reality can break through into our present world through us, the sons and daughters of the kingdom. And so, John has encouraged us to love in spite of ourselves, in spite of culture, and in spite of our feelings. He has asked the church to be recognized by the mark of love through a command that goes against all the obstacles facing us. But I understand that this command might not come easy to everybody. I understand that this kind of message might not be a simple message for everyone to hear. I get that. It might be something that invigorates me as an extrovert and a person that loves to be around people. I'm like, yeah, come on, let's all do this. But I know that not everybody is like me. And so I know that maybe hearing this command isn't an easy one to receive for you who might be an introvert. And you might find yourself fatigued and tired by people. It might not be easy for you if you've been hurt by love in the past. If you've been offended by churches or church members, maybe even someone here in this building this morning. Or someone in your past has offended you. Or maybe you faced a traumatic experience that makes it really difficult for you to love others. I understand that can be true and make this message a lot more difficult for you to receive. And so the tendency around the world in our individualistic society says that's fine. If love is difficult for you, you know what? Forget other Christians, it's just about you and God. You can be a Christian, just you and God. And we start to believe this lie that Christianity is just you and God. But the Bible doesn't allow for that. The Bible doesn't allow for you to have this individualistic Christianity where it's only about you. And you know what? It's just you can be saved and don't worry about anyone else. That's not biblical. So actually, I'm going to ask the worship team to step up while we consider what it means to follow Jesus. To call yourself a Christian means you follow Jesus. We don't find ourselves being fans of Jesus, where we appreciate what he did from a distance. Oh, he was a great teacher. He had some cool ideas. To follow Jesus means we want to walk in the footsteps Jesus walked. So what did Jesus do? Jesus gave everything of himself for love of others. Jesus sacrificed everything for love of others. And so if you want to call yourself a follower of Jesus, a son or a daughter of the King, a new command is given to you. Love others as he has loved you. Jesus said this after he had washed the disciples' feet at the Last Supper. He had just served his disciples just before the most traumatic event of his life. He still stepped out and loved when any one of us, I don't know if I was in that situation, I would have been feeling so sorry for myself. Now, what John is not doing is he's not asking you to become a social butterfly. He's not asking you now to respond yes to every social invite you get and to suddenly become like the most popular person around and to go hang out in large groups. That's not what he's asking of you. That can be very difficult for people. But he is asking you to step out in love. Because if you don't, if you say this religion, this relationship I have with God is just me and him and not these people around me, what you're saying is you may have died and given yourself for me, but I can't love this person that you died for. I can't love this person that you gave everything for because my feelings are more important. And so this morning, again, I'm not saying step out and be now someone that goes to every party that comes along. But I am asking you to love those who are around you. Love those who are around you in a way that might cost you. Whether it costs you energy, whether it costs you time. I'm asking you to love in a way that is difficult. Because then you will need the Spirit of God to empower you. Then you will need something supernatural to get you to do something that is more than natural. Amen? So why don't we stand to our feet this morning? And again, why don't we close our eyes and focus on our Father the King. And there may be a few things that you might need to do in prayer this morning with God. If you've never dealt with a past hurt or a past offense, and you find yourself lacking in trust of people, and that's what's stopping you from loving others, maybe that's something you need to bring to God this morning. But maybe in this command to love others, to love those around you, maybe you need to depend again on your Father God to empower you to do what He's asking you to do. God is a loving Father. He's not going to ask you to do something that you can't do or that He's not going to empower you to do. Or maybe this morning you want to close your eyes with your Father God as King of your heart and ask Him, who is He putting on your heart to show love to? Who is He putting on your heart to step out and show love to? We're going to move into a song this morning where we enthrone Him as King of Kings, as King of our church, as King of our hearts again. And as we do that, let us allow ourselves to submit to him and to submit to what he's asking us to do.